Good morning to all of you. Today we have Mr. Neeraj Marathi with us, who's going to speak about understanding capital markets. Mr. Neeraj is a Pune-based investor. He has been a full-time participant in the capital market since 2002. He tries to practice value-based investing. As a hobby, Neeraj has taught at various B schools as a visiting faculty from 2006 to 2018, taking up subjects such as security analysis, portfolio management, and behavioral finance. He's an active contributor at the Flame Investment Lab. He has recently started a new website called www.sentinelresearch.in. He is also an avid reader and biker. Welcome to the session, sir, and welcome once again. I hand over the proceedings to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Nice to see all of you guys. I know again that it's a Saturday morning, and I will be again ruining your morning, hopefully a bit less. Today's subject is quite interesting. Last time we had covered accounting. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a pretty dry subject, and even though its importance cannot be overstated, it's a subject that you have to learn gradually. Capital markets, on the other hand, is a subject where the introduction itself can give you a great starting point to at least do something about it in practice. So this will be hopefully another value-adding session. May I start the screen sharing?
Yes, sir. So to all the participants, please focus on the presentation. The presentation will be shared at the end of the session.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Right. Please proceed.
Yeah. So guys, this is going to be a very practical kind of session. I'll be talking only a little bit of theory, but more of practical stuff. Obviously, this is something which most of you will be interested in. Most of you must have heard fairy tale kind of stories about the share market, so as to say, how fortunes are made, etc., etc. So your interest in it, I'm sure, is because of money earning reasons, right? So let this be a more interactive session. The more questions you ask, the better it is, right? Just let me tell you that even if you are not going to be in the finance stream, if you are not going to even work formally in any part of the capital markets, the knowledge of this is extremely important. At least the basic knowledge and understanding is extremely important. Why? We'll discuss later. Right? So let us just start off. Let us just start off by understanding some things, right? So just assume that tomorrow you want to start a business. How do you typically start a business? You will put in some of your own money, maybe borrow a bit from your family, from your friends, go to the banks. Right? And after that, beyond a certain size, there is no way you can get any more money. So where would you get the money from? So what do you think? Where would you get the money from? Any answers? Ma'am, when I'm on full screen, I won't be able to see anybody's answers, right?
Yeah, I'll narrate the answers to you.
Okay, I can see. I got the.
If you scroll on the upper left, right-hand side, you should be able to view it.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you so much. Yeah, funding, equity, capital market, family and bank loans, capital market, absolutely. So, broadly all correct answers, right? So capital markets is something from where beyond a certain point, you will have to go and take funding, because there is only so much that your family and friends can lend you. There is only so much that a bank will be willing to lend you. Beyond that, nobody is going to lend you money. So you'll have to collect money. You'll have to take money from other people in a different way. So let us understand what this is. So this is where the capital market comes into play. So what is the capital market? So simply put, the capital market is a place where people and organizations in need of long-term funds are brought together with people and organizations who will provide the long-term funds, the long-term capital to these people who are in need. So it's, it might be an individual, it might be a company. Anybody can approach the capital market and try to raise money. Usually it will be just companies because in capital market the main security which is traded are equity shares. Okay, we'll come to that later. But this is basically a place where people who want money and people who need money, both of them are brought together. Both of them are doing this transaction with certain motives in mind. We'll see what those are also. But this is simply put what a capital market is. So the capital market overall is composed of two segments. Okay, one is called as the primary market. In street terms, it is called as the IPO market. But IPO is just one form in which money is raised. And then the second is called as the secondary market. In street terms, it's called as the share market. So the what you read in the newspapers, what generally is discussed, that everything is what is called as the share market. So we'll see what both of these parts are and how they are helpful. Uh, in the capital markets, both mainly these two securities are traded. One is equity shares, and the second is bonds of a variety of types. So we'll not go into the bonds market right now. We'll concentrate more on the share market. Anyways, if there are any queries, please stop me at any point of time, and you may ask any kind of a query in the chat, in that chat box. Coming back to a bit of theory, right? So capital market, what is the role? What is the importance for our economy? Why is it so important? So a lot of things are done by the capital market. Basically, what capital market does is it allows an economy to develop and thrive. What it does is people who have savings, organizations, companies who have savings, who have excess money, this excess money is put to use in a productive way. It is given to people and organizations who are in need of this money, who will use this money to grow, to expand, to maybe put up a new factory, to maybe put up a new IT company, to maybe put up a new logistics park, whatever the purpose may be. But here, this flow of money from the people who have the money and who are interested in investing the money to people and companies who need this money, this happens, right? So a capital market basically enables capital formation in an economy. It also enables productive use of income, because if you had no place to go, you will either keep your money in a bank, or some of you might keep it in your mattress. I mean, we don't know, right? So here you have got a lot of options. Here you have got a lot of different ways in which you can invest money, right? At what prices do people buy the equities in the IPO market? Once they buy, can they directly sell those equities in the secondary market? Okay, so we will come to the IPO market, so as to say the primary market, in just a bit. I think this is a valid question, but during the course of the presentation, this will be naturally answered. Yashvi. Okay, so here capital markets are extremely essential to the development of the economy. So if you see the economies which are very well developed, all of them have a thriving capital market, and economies which are not developed have an absence of a thriving capital market. So it is very, very important that capital market plays a vital role in the economy. Now let us come to the parts of the capital market, what they are, how they function, etc., etc. So first, let us come to the primary market, right? So primary market, all of you know as the IPO market. IPO aata hai, and some of you who might be investing in shares right now, or who are seeing their parents invest in shares right now, a lot of you might have heard your parents say कि यार ये IPO आया and मुझे shares मिले नहीं, लेकिन वो बाद में ये हो गया वो हो गया, right? So let's just understand what this is, what is the mechanism, and how these things work. So basically, it starts with a company. It starts with an organization which needs money. It will need money for a variety of purposes. It may need money to grow, to put up a new factory, or it may need money for working capital, or it may need money because they want to acquire some other company. Basically, money is needed. Right? And beyond a certain point, as we said, banks will not be able to lend beyond a certain point. So this is one end of the transaction. And on the other hand, you have got a variety of investors who have money to invest. Right? Obviously, on this one side, the companies which are there, their incentive is to get money to grow. On the other side, the investors, what do you think their incentive is? Why would they want to invest in companies? Dividends, fine. That is one part through which you get returns. to generate returns, right? So returns will be in a variety of ways. One is dividends, yeah, to generate profits, higher returns, ROI. Perfect, right? So now these two parties are there. So what to do about it? So what the company does is essentially the companies create equity shares. So fresh equity shares are created. Equity shares is a financial instrument, right? So when you, for example, when you go to a bank and you keep your money in a fixed deposit, you get a fixed deposit receipt, right? So that acts as a proof that you have kept this FD in the bank, right? So similarly, in the case of equity, when you buy the equity shares from a company, this company has freshly created the equity shares and they have sold the equity shares to willing investors at a certain price. Now, in this case, we are saying that these shares are sold at 20 rupees per share. Now, obviously, the question that will come to your mind is who decides this price? Right? So this price, at what price will the shares be sold at, is decided by the company in consultation with its merchant bankers. Merchant bankers basically are an entity who help our consultants, let's say, who help these companies with all the formalities for coming out with an initial public offer or an IPO. Okay? So in this, what the company is doing, it is creating a fresh financial instrument, new equity shares. These equity shares the company is selling to the investors for a certain amount per share, right? And this money the investors are giving to the company, and the company will use it to grow. So here basically the company is going to give the investors shares, and the investors are going to give the company some money against those shares. So remember a few of these things which are important in the primary market or the IPO market, so as to say. So in the primary market, fresh financial instruments are created and sold to the investors. That is one. The company gets the money to grow and become bigger, and the investors get the financial instrument like shares. Now, tell me one thing: why would an investor buy the shares? So either in this case, the investor is willing to buy a share at rupees 20 per share. So let's say you were the investor. Why would you buy it? So first is answer comes is dividend. So legally or by law, it is not at all mandatory that the company has to declare dividends. So company may choose, the management of the company may choose not to declare any dividends at all. Okay, the second answer is the value might increase in future. Faith in the company's success, absolutely. So, Shrushti, faith in the company's success, right? So, if the company succeeds, what will you gain out of it? Imagine that you have the shares in your hand, okay, and you have faith in the company, and the company, let's say, succeeds also. But what will you gain out of it? Higher return than dividends. Yeah, profits. So how will you, Shushti, how will you make profits? You bought these companies shares at rupees 20 per share, but how will you make profits? By selling them. That is perfect. How will you sell them? So will you take your shares, generally go out on the road looking for people who will buy the shares from you? What will you do? Yeah. So this is where the secondary market comes into play. So see, remember, all investors buy shares not because they are charitable. Okay, they buy the shares because sometime in the future they hope that the company will perform well, the company will generate more profit. The more the profit the company generates, the value per share increases, and therefore they hope that they will be able to sell the share at a higher price. Right? So that is why all investors buy the share. But the problem is you can get the shares from the company, wo sab ho gaya. But how will you sell the shares? And so where will you sell the shares? How will you know that there is some other party where the other party is willing to buy the shares? Right? So what is gray? What is gray market? Okay. So gray market is something which is not a legal thing to do. If anybody approaches you about it, I will just say that, tell them that you are not interested. That is the only thing I will say about it. Now, check if they are listed on the exchange, etc., etc. Okay, stock market, perfect, perfect answers. So just remember that the capital market is composed of two parts. One, which is the first one we studied, which is the primary market. In the primary market, the company is creating fresh shares, giving it to the investors, and the investors are giving the company the money, okay, for use by the company. The investors are hoping that they will be able to sell these shares at a profit, which is where now the secondary market comes into play. That is how the two are linked. Right? Now, tell me one thing. If you knew that you are going to get these shares, but there is no platform available for you to sell the shares, would you buy the shares? No, you will not, right? Because then you will be stuck with it, right? So the secondary market is very, very important because that is why the primary market will function. Is that clear? Right? And now tell me one thing. If the primary market were not there, right, these fresh shares which are created and issued to investors, will there exist a secondary market? It won't, right? So both these are very much interlinked and dependent on each other. So let us now understand what is the secondary market. So what happens in there's something in the Q&A, I think. On what basis are shares assigned when IPO happens? The shares are assigned on a variety of basis. I'll just simplify it for you. The shares are allotted in conjunction with the merchant bankers, who are also technically called as the book running lead managers. Simply put, if let's say there are 100 shares on offer, okay, company wants to sell 100 shares, and application comes for, let's say, 1 million. Application comes for 1 million shares. So the company wants to sell only 100 shares, but the investors are so interested that they have applied for this much. So the allotment on a very simplistic basis happens on a lottery system. Okay, it's just a lottery. Uske basis pe some investors will get some shares, most investors will get no shares. But if the application are less, so let's say 100 shares here, and the applications have come in for only 200 shares, then in this case, the allotment happens on a pro rata, proportional basis. So for every 2 shares applied, you are allotted 1 share. So it depends on how much is the amount of applications coming in. There are a lot of technical things, guys, so I'm just simplifying it for you, but it's not this straightforward. This is what I'm telling you is the final outcome. Uske piche there is a huge number of technical and legal things which have to happen. May I go ahead?
Yes.
So yes, ma'am. Let us look at the secondary market, right? So now you have these set of investors, okay, a few of them who got the shares allotted from the company in the primary market, right? So you have this set of investors who got the shares at 20. There is another set of investors who also got the shares of 20, but who are willing right now to sell at 25. So you will have a variety of investors. Okay, there's some question. There are multiple type of shares like preference and equity shares. All of them are offered in the primary market. So which individual can buy, or are shares like equity sold to different channels? Okay, so all these, so there are certain preference shares and certain equity shares, both of which are listed in the secondary market. Okay, so you can trade in them in the secondary market. You can, obviously you will have to buy this through the primary market from the company, or you will have to buy it from other investors in the secondary market. But there is only one channel through which equity shares are sold, or even preference shares for that matter are sold, which is a platform. What is that platform? We'll see. Okay, so there is another channel and platform also. We'll talk about that later. So here we have got investors who have been allotted the shares. They hold the shares, right? And then you will have other investors who could not get any shares, or let's say they got the shares, but they want more, right? So they are saying that, no, I am willing to, so some guy here is saying, I am willing to pay 22 rupees per share. Another group of investors or one investor is saying, I really love the company, I will pay rupees 23 per share for it. Is somebody here, here is somebody who wants to sell at 25. Here is somebody who has got no idea about what to do. You know, he's just sitting. So there are a variety of investors like this, right? Now, the point is, there are certain investors who are holding the shares and who are willing to sell the shares. And there are certain investors who do not hold the shares, or maybe even hold the shares and want to buy more, and who are willing to buy, right? Now, the point is, how will these parties meet each other? How will they know of the existence of each other, right? So this is where a platform comes in. This is where what is known as the stock exchange comes in. A stock exchange is nothing but a platform. It is a platform provided where buyers and sellers can come together, can decide on the price and the quantity of shares that they want to buy, and then the entire trading or the exchange of shares for money will happen. For doing this, the stock exchange charges a certain fee. The stock exchange charges fee to the investors as well as the company, right? So it is the company's duty. Enlighten us on the depository participants. Yeah, we'll do that. It is the company's duty, okay, to pay the listing fees to the stock exchange so that the company's shares are listed on the stock exchange. The company's shares are available on that platform, which can be used by the investors. The platform can be used by the investors to buy and sell the shares of a company, right? So the company has to declare during the IPO itself whether it is going to list its shares or not on one or more exchanges. So the shares may be listed in on the Bombay Stock Exchange or on the National Stock Exchange or on both. Right? So the company has to declare it beforehand so that the investors know that afterwards the shares will be available for trading and they can freely buy and sell the shares. Right? Any questions so far? So this is what is the secondary market. It's nothing but a platform. We will go into the depository participants, Siddharth, that is coming. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll just move ahead. So all these parties, all these investors will then go to the platform to buy and sell the shares that they want. So secondary market, let's just understand again a few things. The secondary market, the investors buy and sell shares amongst themselves, right? As you saw in the previous slide, everybody here are investors and they're buying and selling the shares amongst themselves, right? So where did these shares come from in the first place? Price mechanism in the secondary market. Okay. So where do these shares come from? Yeah. So these are the shares which were allotted by the company to certain investors in the primary market. Now these shares only are now available on the platform, okay, where those holding the shares will be selling the shares, right? So these shares, so today, for example, you are looking at shares of, let's say, a Reliance or a Infosys. Sometime in the past, unka IPO hua tha, which is where the company sold the shares to the investors, and today the investors are selling the shares amongst themselves. Regarding the price mechanism, it's a bit complicated, but let me just simplify it for you. The price is completely demand supply driven. Okay, so the platform is provided. You, let's say, are a buyer, and as I was telling you, I don't know how much you heard out of. I was just explaining how the price mechanism works. Right? So basically, the stock exchange and its software. If you, let's say, want to buy the shares at a certain price, you put in your order. There is somebody who wants to sell the shares at a certain price. They will put in their order. Whenever both these prices are the same, okay, that matching will be done by the exchange and its software, and the trade will take place. So it's all demand supply driven. So I'm putting things rather simply. Why do few companies prefer non-transferable shares? I didn't understand the question. Dia Ranka, you can just email me separately on this because I think you are talking about something different, which is very fine. You can just email me separately about this, right? So these shares came from the primary market. Now, again, the question comes, but how will these investor buyer seller finds each other? This is where the platform comes in, as we saw in the previous slide, which is the stock exchange. Now, investors get money when they sell shares they own to the other investors. Right? So please remember the stock market that you see or the secondary market. In this, one investor is selling his or her shares to other investor. Right? So the person who is selling the shares, he will get money for it, and the person who is buying the shares, he will give money and get the shares. Please remember that the company gets nothing. Okay, so if the Infosys ka stock price goes from rupees, let's say 800 rupees per share to 1300 rupees per share, Infosys gets nothing. It does not get any richer or any poorer. It absolutely is immaterial. Okay, companies get money only once when they are in the primary market. Okay. How was this coordination and exchange done so smoothly before the digital era? Om Rawat, right? Om, I will not tell you, I will show you. How was this done? It's a very interesting question. Okay, so the company pays a listing fee but doesn't get any money from it. Yeah, Shruti, the company pays a listing fee but doesn't get any money from it. But still, it would do that. Why will it do it? What do you think? No. So not goodwill for investors. See, it's a who asked that question? Yeah, Shrishti. Now tell me very simple thing. In the primary market, okay, you got allotted certain shares, but those shares are not going to be listed on any stock exchange. They are not going to be available on any platform. Would you buy the shares from the company? You will not, right? So which is why the company has to declare in advance that we are going to get listed on the exchange, and that exchange has to be paid those fees, right? So which is why the company pays the fees, because otherwise no investor will be interested. Na? If the share is not listed on any platform, on any stock exchange, nobody will. During the IPO, what happens to the owner's shares? The owner retains the shares. So, on in any company, you will find that a certain large percentage of shares is held by the owners. Right? They retain the shares. It is completely up to them if they want to sell the shares or hold them. Right? It is the shares are with them. Those shares are also available for trading, by the way. So they can come to the stock exchange and sell their own shares. It happens often. Did I miss any question? Yeah, no. Right. So please remember that company gets money only when they come out with a public offer, they create shares and they sell it to the investors, right? That happens in the primary market. In the secondary market, investors buy, sell amongst each other. The company gets no money out of it. The company just has to do it as an enabling kind of thing so that investors can buy and sell. Right? That is why they will pay the listing fees.
So, one question, there's Yashvi Shah who's asked, in the secondary market, the trade occurs only at a price displayed at the stock exchange, right?
Okay. So the trade occurs at a price. So, okay, I was actually going to include this, but I didn't include. In the SBTS, in the screen-based trading system, there is what is called as a matching software. Okay, so it's called as a price time priority. I'll just tell you very simply. So assume that you have been allotted shares of the company at 20 rupees. So Yashvi, you would like to sell the shares. Okay, you would like to sell those shares. You have been allotted those shares at 20. You have given 20 rupees to the company. Now you have those shares. And now those shares have been listed on a stock exchange, a platform, right? And you want to sell the shares. Just type in at what price would you like to buy would you like to sell the shares? It's a completely random thing. 25. Okay. So Yashvi here wants to sell the shares at 25 rupees. Okay. Now, what happens in the stock exchange or what happens on the stock exchanges, it is displayed. So you will have to put in an order. Okay. You will have to put in an order that I want to sell, let's say 100 shares at 25 rupees. So that order will go to the exchange and it will be visible to everybody. Anybody here wants to buy shares at 25? If not, what is the price you would like to buy? Somebody is saying 24, right? So Siddharth will put in an order saying that I would like to buy shares of such and such company at 24 rupees. Okay. So that order will also go. So there is one order from Yashvi who wants to who wants to sell the shares at 25. That will be visible. There will be another order from Siddharth. Fourth point. Okay, I'll do that. There will be another order from Siddharth, okay, which will be to buy the shares at 24. So you have a seller over here at 25 rupees and you have a buyer over here at 24 rupees. Now this is what is displayed on the stock exchange. Okay, so this is what is displayed on the stock exchange. So you can see it when you are in front of the stock exchange terminal. What is that? We'll just go. But unless and until both parties agree on a price, a trade will not happen. So this will continue the whole day And there are companies in which not a single share gets traded the whole day because the buyers want to buy at as low price possible and sellers want to sell at as high a price as possible. Anybody here wanting to buy shares at 25? If not, Yashvi, can you come down to 24.5? Okay, Siddharth, are you willing to do the trade at 24.5? No, not tera, na mera kind of thing. No, man, you are not going to be very popular with her. So he's still saying no. Yashvi, are you willing to sell at 24? No. So so this is what happens, right? I want to go short. Let's not get into that, right? You want to go short means you want to first sell the shares. Let's not go into that because that becomes a bit complicated and it's basically a bit off topic, right? Or even when a limit order is put, the actual trade price sometimes differs. What is the reason? So if you put in a limit order and the actual other party is putting in an order at a price which is more profitable for you, then that price will be executed. So for example, if you put in a limit order to buy the shares at 25, okay, and while putting the order, there's suddenly a seller who is willing to who comes willing to sell the shares at 24, then your execution will happen at 24 basically, and you will get the shares a bit lower. Okay, anyways, we are kind of digressing. Ma'am has asked the fourth point. So the Infosys wala point, ma'am?
Yes, there was a student who had put it in a Q&A box.
Oh, okay.
Explain the fourth point displayed on the screen from the start.
So basically, see, Infosys came out with its IPO in, if I remember right, 1994 or 93. It came out with its IPO at that time, where the company created fresh shares and offered them to the investors. Okay, the investors bought these shares. Then these shares were listed on a stock exchange. They are now available for buying, selling on a platform. Okay, it's available on the Bombay Stock Exchange as well as the National Stock Exchange. Now here, the investors own the shares. Okay, these investors are selling the shares to other investors. So Infosys, let's say I bought at 800. Okay, and now the share is at 1300. So I sold the shares at 1300. So who gets the money? Infosys gets the money. I bought the shares at 800 and I sold them at 1300. So this 1300, yeah. So me, the investor, I get the money, right? So even if the Infosys ka stock price goes up from 1300 to let's say 50,000, Infosys is not going to earn anything extra. It got the money at that time of the IPO only. Right? Now, once it's listed on the secondary market or the stock exchange, all the incremental returns flow only to the investors. Is that clear? I don't know who asked, but I hope it is clear.
Sir, it was Raman Kirti.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Great. So please remember, this is what happens in the primary market. In the primary market, the company and the investors, these are the parties to the transaction. The company will give its securities like equity shares to the investors. Investors will give the money to the company. And this is what happens in the secondary market where investors will be buying and selling amongst themselves. Is this clear? I hope no questions. Does the initial IPO depend in the company's pricing or investors' intuition? So, okay, Aishwarya, I think you want to ask how the IPO pricing is done. I think, okay, I'll go to the Q&A box. Okay. I think I imagine what, yeah. So you want to know how the IPO pricing is done, right? Okay. IPO may a variety of parties are involved. The two main parties are the company and its management and its promoters and merchant bankers. There is a category of merchant bankers who are known as who are called as book running lead managers, BRLMs. So what the book running lead managers do is they will conduct road shows, they will talk to a lot of potential investors, and they will just gather info and try to understand ki generally in the market what seems to be the value of our company, right? Then they will go back to the management and say that boss, हमको लगता है कि ये price पे IPO किया तो ठीक रहेगा. Management will then discuss and amongst them they will decide a price, right? And that is how the price is decided. how exactly is an increase in stock price good for Infosys? So Shruti, it is not good for Infosys directly, but it is good for Infosys indirectly. When we are covering Asia, would you also throw some light on arbitrages? No problem, we'll do that. So how exactly is the increase good for Infosys? It is indirectly good for Infosys. First reason is tomorrow, okay, if Infosys wants to raise more money, if tomorrow Infosys wants to raise more money, if its stock price has gone up a lot, it can raise money at a good higher price. That is one. Second thing is, today we are talking about Infosys because it has given great returns. It has given its stock price has gone up, right? So increase in stock price, increase in market capitalization increases the visibility of the company a lot. So Abhi, for example, you don't need to, if let's say you are a person, you don't need to be told what is Infosys, right? So it's a large company. It has given very good returns to investors, because of which its communication is very good with investors. So it increases the brand of the company. So there is indirect benefit. Shruti, there is no direct benefit that Infosys gains, but indirectly it benefits a lot. We'll cover, Harsh will cover arbitrages. So guys, basically I'm I'm able to look at only one box. So I'm looking at this chat wala box. So I'm not been looking at the Q&A wala box. So
sir, I'll put up the Q&A questions into the chat.
That's what I was going to request. Thank you so much, ma'am. So this is what the primary and the secondary market is. Now, let's just see something which is a bit interesting. The stock market. When I say stock market, I mean the secondary market. Okay, so how did we start? So how we all began. So this is a clip of the stock exchange from a bygone era. So just remember, earlier, all trading used to be physical. Okay, so there used to be actual human brokers who would come together physically at a place, and they would shout at each other. And just like right now, two of your friends were not agreeing on a price. I imagine they will have a fight later. But they were not agreeing on a price. That's what used to happen. The share certificates were also physical. They were actual paper certificates, which once buying selling happens, they used to be. So somebody had asked me that before this digital era, how things used to happen. Who had asked me that? Let me come to that. Yeah, Om. So Om, this is a video which you will like. So this is what used to happen. This is a 1995 video. It's a 6-minute clip. I hope it is it is audible, ma'am.
Yes, sir. It's audible.
Oh, something happened. So you'll learn something out of it, but more importantly, it's fun to watch.
Welcome to Bombay, a trading post for centuries, gateway to India and one of the jewels of the British Raj. No stranger to commerce and trade, it's a city that has wholeheartedly embraced the new capitalism. A city where even the billboards urge punters to invest. Nowhere is the frenzied energy of Bombay business shown more than here at the stock exchange. Brokers play for luck just to survive as they enter the human maelstrom of the trading floor, now the busiest in the world.
I'm sorry.
This is share trading as it used to be, where brokers are elevated to the status of cult heroes and regulations spurned. For 2 hours every day, broker Sundar Iyer is crammed onto the trading floor.
Tell us what are all the hand signals? What are they for? That means we were buying at 85 and we are selling at 87.5. two-way court. What's it like though at the moment out there on the floor? It must be tough. You're getting pushed and shoved. Does it get violent at times?
Yes, many times when there are very volatile scripts, it does go beyond just pushing and prodding. It goes to deep shouting and even fights, hand fights. Sometimes it takes place, but that's all part of the game. Yeah, it's all part of the game, and people do enjoy it at the end of the day.
Is it fun?
It's very much fun, I must tell you.
Believe it or not, today's a quiet day on the exchange. Bombay only trades for 2 hours every day. That's all the traders can take of this frenzy. And it's not unusual for the brokers to emerge from the floor with ripped shirts or even bleeding from wounds sustained in the melee. It's as if every new share issue is an incitement to violence. But with all those shares, the highest number of transactions in the world per day, this sort of enthusiasm, this pushing and shoving, do you think it ever gets out of control here?
At times, maybe. At times, because, when everybody is a buyer, right? Everybody like to, grab hold of, a jobber or a market maker and say, give me your shares, right? And even in the bear run, right? When the jobber wants to run away, catch hold of him and say, take some.
The brokers still occasionally take time out. The stock exchange broker can just about take anything. A year ago, 8 bombs exploded in Bombay, killing 350 and injuring 1,000 more, the result of religious violence. One of the bombs exploded at the exchange. But even that could not stop the brokers. The very next working day, the exchange was open for trading as normal. It's not just the brokers and high-flying financiers, though, who make this place tick.
Market is going. Yeah, he's going very up and very high.
Indians, rich and poor, are mad about the share market.
Do you think you'll make a lot of money?
Yes. I think they'll double their whatever they will list. They will list double their issue prices. They are earning, that's why you can see there's a big rush, heavy rush. How long they are standing in a very sunshine. Because they are earning, that's why they are standing.
It's actually a miracle that anyone gets anywhere near the exchange on Dalal Street, India's equivalent of Wall Street. The blocks around, every available space is taken over by scriptwallahs, hawkers giving out application forms for new share issues.
It's a sort of pavement capitalism as Indians do their darndest to cash in on the action. At a store like this, there are over 50 share issues on offer, bearing names like Vesuvius Investments, OK Play India and Phonex. But the market is so active that most share issues are oversubscribed. In the end, only a few punters actually get their hands on the shares. Which are the hottest shares, do you think, at the moment?
Today is the Birla Growth Fund Limited.
Birla Growth is the hot tip.
It is a hot tip because it is promoted by Mr. Aditya Birla. He is the owner of the Hindalco. He is today's blue chip of the stock exchange.
So this is a blue chip for shares
today.
So how quickly could I get my money back if I invested in this?
You will take double money in the 3 months.
Double the money within 3 months?
If you are allotted the share.
Even when you've got a prospectus, your battle to get in on the action is not over. The queue at the bank to register your share application snakes around the block several times. Back at the stock exchange, there's a half-hour wait just to get into the lifts.
It's not capitalism out of control?
No, not yet. Not yet. It is a true capitalism, I would say rather.
Why that? Why do you say that?
Because you can imagine, per month we are getting about 70 additional listings. That means about little over 3 companies per day. And that's the growth. So that is a true capitalism, isn't it?
But by 2 o'clock, it's all over. The brokers retreat to their offices to process the paperwork that their frenzied activity has just produced. And the ring is prepared for yet another day's trading on the world's busiest and maddest stock exchange.
So, I think some of you have seen the series Scam. So what is depicted there is actually very true, right? So This is how the trading used to happen. Now you cannot imagine how things used to be settled, which is why that time the trading used to happen only for 2 hours. So I was not there in the market during this time. During college days, so 1996 and all, that is when I started coming into the markets. But this is how trading used to happen, right? So it was complete chaos. And for somebody who is a bit thin as me, I would not have survived maybe, right? So this is how the trading used to happen. This is how we began. But again, this is something which is not scalable. Most of you would not have seen anything like this. So for example, how many of you have seen an IPO form? For applying to the IPO, a form. I have. So Tanay has, I have, yeah, a few of you have, right? Right. So there are a lot of things, ASBA, etc. So now everything has become digital, right? So this is how we began, right? And now let's just see where we are. So where are we today? So physical share certificates today have been converted into electronic form. So it's technically known as dematerialization of shares, or DMAT, you might have heard, right? So this term DMAT you might have heard. We'll see what that is. But dematerialization, the short form is DMAT. This is basically conversion of share certificates into an electronic form. Right? So these are now available in electronic form for trading. So today we have physical share certificates which has been converted into electronic form. So just like your money is stored into your savings bank account, your shares are stored in what is known as a DMAT account, okay, a dematerialized account, a DMAT account. Now, your savings bank account will be with something like a HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Yes Bank, hopefully not, and other various variety of banks. Just like that, your DMAT account, which contains all the shares that you have, is with entities called as depositories. Okay, there are two in India, CDSL and NSDL. So imagine them to be like bank accounts for shares, right? So CDSL and NSDL, these are two entities which allow you to open a DMAT account with them. That's an account in which the electronic or the dematted shares are stored. Early, the stock exchanges were mainly dominated brokers. How the role of broker changed in current times? The role of the broker has changed significantly in current times, but it is just as relevant. Please remember that only a member of the stock exchange can trade on the exchange. Even today everything is in electronic form, but you cannot trade on the stock exchange. You have to go through somebody who is a member of the stock exchange. उसने वो stock exchange को membership fees भरा है, he has the membership card, right? He acts as the broker. So earlier the broker was very important. The broker, because it was all physical, right? So the broker had a lot of control. He used to charge a bit more. Even today the broker is important, but today because of competition, because the ease of doing transaction, the role of the broker has diminished to some extent. Brokerage rates have gone down a lot, but the broker is still required, right? You as an individual, currently you cannot directly trade on a stock exchange. You have to go through somebody who is a member of the stock exchange, like a Motilal Oswal, like a Edelweiss, these kind of things. So Mudita, your question is answered, I hope. Okay. The physical ring has been replaced by computer systems, right? So saving many people from getting a black eye, because I've heard from my seniors, some of whom come in this financial literacy course as speakers, that literally public used to be beaten up and all. So I mean, I just can imagine what kind of a time it might have been. Right? So now what you do is you place your buy or sell orders online, and you see their status, etc., everything online only. So you want to buy at a certain price, आपने buy order डाल दिया. Unless and until there is somebody who wants to sell, there is a seller who is willing to sell at the same price, the trade won't happen. Order will remain as an order only. It won't get converted into a trade. Okay, so that matching is done by the stock exchanges software. Now, technological advancements are continuously changing the way the markets, the exchange, everything functions. You can Google what is algorithmic trading, popularly known as algo trading. It's kind of been a rage for quite some time. It has its own disadvantages also, but there are new things like this coming all the time. Yes, the ring was replaced by computers. Advancement continues to happen. Okay, so this question will come to you. So how do you start, right? How do you start, so as to say, trading in the stock exchange, on the stock exchange? So you start by opening a demat account and a trading account. A trading account is to be opened with a broker. It will enable you to participate in the exchanges on the stock exchange through the broker. And a demat account is to be opened where whatever shares you buy will be stored, whatever shares you sell will be taken out. Right? So you approach any broker, they will open both accounts for you. Majority of the big brokers are, you now have got technologically very advanced systems by brokers such as Zerodha, where you don't even need to be physically present. Everything can be done online. So there are a variety of brokers. Most of them offer similar services. Most of them charge similarly, and that is how one starts. You start by opening a demat account and a trading account linked to your bank account. You can do everything online also, or you can have a human broker also. Completely up to you. Something like ICICIdirect.com, you can do everything online. Right? It's just that whatever you do it very carefully, because you might hear a lot of things. So I'll suggest you something very simple. If you are interested in the stock markets and you want to do something, please start off by opening a demat account, etc. And only start with money. Put in the money that you can completely afford to lose. Okay, only start with that. Rest of the things, look at it as learning fees that you are paying to the market. So don't expect much returns on it. Return aa gaya to acha hi hai, but don't expect. That's what I'm saying. Obviously, the question now which will come into your mind is, how does the actual infrastructure work? So it's just a small picture. So it's you can't rely on your regular internet systems, right, for online trading. So it's all connected via a satellite. You will see that on any broker ka office, uske building ke upar, there will be a small hub antenna, and all these are connected real time to the mainframe of the stock exchange. So there is complete transparency, right? Everybody can see everything what is happening. It is like a mirror image. Sorry, there's something in here. What about Zerodha and Grow apps? Are they different from normal brokers? They are not, Tanay, they are not different from normal brokers. It is just that the way they operate is different. A broker is somebody who is going to enable. A broker is an enabler. Okay, he is somebody who will enable you to trade on the exchange, because you are not a member of the exchange, right? Now, how they do it, that is what is different. Now, the Zerodha, etc., their systems are very much advanced than other brokers. So the way they do things is different. What they do is the same. One more question: how do free brokerage systems work, and how do these brokers earn money? I think this is a topic for it's an entire discussion in itself. Their business model is very different. There is no technically free brokerage broker. He will charge on some things. He will give some things free. Right? So there's technically nothing free. They will charge on some things, right? So it's a totally Rahil, it's a totally different topic. Deserves a lot more discussion. When I drop in and Flame sometime, when Flame starts, I'll have a talk with you. Anyway, so that is broadly how it works. It's all connected through satellites, and it's a real-time kind of thing. I just wanted to have this picture for you. So who all are the characters? That is one question that somebody asked. We are running out of time. So who all are the participants of the stock exchange, right? So in this entire thing in the stock market, who are all the participants? What do they do? So on one hand, you have the exchanges. So there are many in India, but the most active ones are the stock exchange and the national stock exchange. So you have the exchanges which are basically a platform. Exchanges do not influence price in any way, do not decide price in any way. They will just they will just ensure that a lot of manipulation does not happen. So they will control price action by introducing what are known as circuit filters, but they do not influence price or decide the price in any way. They are just platforms available for anybody to use. So this is one party. This is a second gang of parties, who are all the brokers. So there are a variety of brokers. There are good old family brokers, and you have these professional brokers. Some of the brokers offer value-added services, such as they will provide you research, etc., etc. A lot of things, differentiated factors. Some of these are completely online platforms. Some of these are a combination of online and offline. So you can choose whether you want to have a human, or you will yourself place your orders online. Right? So this is the second party. Then you have got these depositories. There are two. This is where you are. This is where you open your demat account, and all your shares are sold electronically. So Pranay is asking, what do I look at before picking up stocks? Can you suggest any stocks for long term? Pranay, you are asking for a tip. I will not do that. Yeah, I mean, it's fair. Yeah. Everybody asks everybody that only. But my point is, right now, so it's so nice that you are frankly saying yes, sir. So right now I am not going to give you any tip. Okay, right now is for you guys. It's the time to learn. Later on will be the time to earn. So right now, focus on learning. So you have got NSDL and CDSL here, which are the depositories where you open the demat account and the shares are stored. So this is one more party. Then you have all the heroes who are basically the investors of a variety of, so there are retail investors, HNIs, mutual fund. There are a lot of investors who are another party. All these investors will basically have their demat accounts here and have their trading account here, and they will be trading on this platform or the stock exchange. So that's how the entire thing works. So there are a variety of, so within that, somebody asked me about arbitrages, etc. Somebody is asking something. At what age did you start investing in the market? If you could go in the past, at what age would you have started in trade? So Om, that's a very difficult question. So we started informally in college days itself. So 12th standard and FY and all. So when I was 18, 19, but formally I started working in research at the age of 21 and a half. So I'm 41 today. So it's been almost 20 years. Can you suggest some good online resources to refer to when beginning to trade? Yeah, I'll do that separately. At what age would I have started? I have no clue yet. So I don't know. I mean, when I started, I was a big idiot. I would have started early. I would have been a bigger idiot, right? So I honestly don't have an answer. So a lot of people quote Warren Buffett because he started at the age of some 12 and 13, and he says that I started very late, right? So boss, अपना तो वैसा कुछ है नहीं, but obviously earlier the better. And starting after having good working knowledge, that's something I would definitely recommend. So there's some question. Any book suggestion for students? Yeah, I'll send that separately. So there is on my blog there are a few books. I had written an article on a variety of books, but I'll send that link to ma'am separately. So these are all the participants. Now within this, within all these investors, there are a variety of investors. So there are long-term genuine investors who basically want to look at the company's performance and invest. So there are traders who are not interested in the company's performance, but are interested only in the stock price action. And that is what their decision making is. And then there are share your blog link. Just Google Neeraj Marathe blog, you will get it. Not touching your stocks. Okay, long-term listening. And so, okay, so there are three types of players, as I said. You have got investors, you have got traders, and you have got arbitrages. These are the three main kinds. So arbitrages basically try to take advantage of price inefficiency on different. So BSE pe, there is a seller selling at a certain price, and NSE pe there is, let's say, a buyer selling at a weirdly different price. So an arbitrager will try to be the counterparty to both and basically take advantage of the price inefficiency, very simply put. And obviously there are speculators who have no clue what they're doing. So they will function on things like, अंदर से आवाज आई कि स्टॉक अब ऊपर जाएगा इसलिए स्टॉक लिया, etc. etc. So there are a variety of players. The stock market, please remember, is basically a platform. The stock market. So yes, this is my website. Yeah, this is my blog. Yeah, on the blog, if you just search books, you will find a post. So I stopped writing my blog years ago, but you will find a bit dated post on books, and you will find the books there. Anyways, so you have all these different types of players. And all these players are basically regulated by a very, very powerful, today it is very powerful, very, very powerful entity called as SEBI. In my view, SEBI is probably the best in the world in terms of being a regulator. With the size of our market and the number of participants, obviously there are going to be some lacunae, but the steps that SEBI has taken are really something which are noteworthy. Right? So this is basically the overall way the people, the entities in the market function. Everybody is regulated by SEBI, by the way. Fine. So let's go to the next and the last thing. Here I would like to spend a bit of time, and if you have any questions, please do ask. So how and why is it important for you? A question will come, and I want to drive this point home that if you're a finance student, non-finance student, all these things, they don't matter. Okay, you will be exposed to the stock market in a variety of ways in life. Okay, so let's assume. So now a lot of assumptions are coming up. Let's assume that you are sincere. Okay, let's assume that because you are sincere, you study. Let's assume that because you study, you get good marks and good grades. Let's assume that because you got good grades, you got a good placement and a good salary. Let's assume that you managed to save some of that salary. So a lot of assumptions, but let's assume all these things. What will you do with your savings later on? Right? Beyond a certain point, you will start realizing that fixed income, bank FDs and all are not enough. A lot of times they are not even enough to beat the real inflation that is there. So you will have to get into a few different types of investment in order to increase the returns that you have. So sometime or the other, you will be exposed to the stock market in one form or the other. Okay, so it is very necessary to understand how it works. So you may be from any stream, you may be a psychology student, a HR student, it doesn't matter. You are going to get exposed to the stock markets in one way or the other. It is very important that you have understanding of the basics. Right? You will have advisors to help you. But if you don't understand the basics, there will be always somebody who can take you for a ride. Right? So this is one thing that you please be very clear, have a basic understanding of how it works. I think it is more important that you know how to avoid big blunders. I will just have a brief talk about that too. So even if you avoid the big blunders, you will do decently in the stock market, right? So let's just take a look at a few things. So some important points to remember. Please remember that practically and legally, both, no guarantee can be given in equity, in shares. So if there is somebody who is approaching you saying that boss shares में मेरे साथ invest करो, you will, मैं guarantee देता हूँ 25% returns. Okay, so it is legally also not permissible. So please remember that there is no guarantee. Second thing, if you think that there is something too good to be true, it is surely not true. Okay, somebody will be claiming something and it will not be true. See what happens now in the stock market. Usually people, their belief gets suspended. Right? So you will often see that, let's say before buying a mobile phone, people research a lot कि boss इसका battery कितना है, camera क्या megapixel है, what is the RAM, what is the display like, wireless charging, etc., etc., etc. But same people, when it comes to stocks, a tip on some message board is enough. So somebody tells them that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala is going to buy the shares. RJ is buying the shares, I will also buy. They have done no research on the company. They have got no idea. So in the stock market, typically it happens that your belief gets suspended. And that is the problem which happens, right? So in a lot of cases, please remember, if something is too good to be true, it's surely not true. Okay? All stock market stories you will always hear will end with you going, wow. You will always hear like, yaar, isne 5,000 se start kiya. So that's the story of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala also, right? He started with $5,000 and he's what, 12-15,000 crore kind of a portfolio. You have got a variety of these very senior investors who have become very large, started with very humble backgrounds, right? So please remember that I don't know how many of you have seen what is happening in the US market. Some of you might have read about it. There was a company called as GameStop and all. Wahan pe people, somebody converted some $50,000 into some 1.2 million or something in a matter of 2-3 days. All these stories are wow. Okay, so this is what will attract you always, and this is maybe what you will aspire or want to do. But please remember that there is a huge amount of survivorship bias. Survivorship bias means you get to hear stories of those who have survived. Okay, there's something in the chat. Let me just see. Ruchi Soya, wow. So Ruchi Soya was wow, that is fine. But there was a reduction in capital. So your number of shares got reduced. So that was not so wow. Anyways, so survivorship bias means you will get to hear stories of success only. So behind...
Sir, there's one more question.
Okay,
are index funds better for a person from non-finance background rather than mutual funds?
The very short and simple answer, Tanay, is definitely yes. Index funds are way better. They are very low cost funds. And it's something that we'll come to that. I was going to come to mutual funds because that is something which I would definitely urge a lot of you guys to do, right? So please remember that all you hear are success stories. Okay, behind every one success story, behind every one Ramdev Agarwal, behind every one Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, or behind every one Ramesh Damani, Radhakrishna Damani, Nimesh Shah, Dugesh Shah, there are so many people, okay, who have not made it, okay, and who always thought they are going to do it something like what these big people did. These people, a lot of these people took unnecessary risks. They went down the drain, and you will never hear about them, right? So you will always think that stock market में something amazing ही होता है, which is not necessarily the case. Please remember that you have to be extremely careful in the stock market with your money. Okay, remember that everybody has perverse incentives. So if somebody is recommending something to you, it is that he is doing it, he or she is doing it for a reason. The reason might not be beneficial for you, but it will surely be beneficial for them. So you have to apply your mind, understand the basics, have common sense, and don't blindly trust anything or don't believe in any of these wild stories. For a lot of you, I would suggest start reading up on, there are a lot of books available on basics of mutual funds, etc., etc. So please start reading on what are mutual funds, how they operate, etc., etc., right? So mutual funds basically, to tell you very simply, mutual funds are kind of collective investment vehicles. So अपने को नहीं जम रहा है ना, so a lot of investors like us who don't understand how to invest, we will come together, we will give money to a fund manager who is an expert, okay, who is studied, experienced in the market. So that fund manager will manage the entire thing as a big pile, as a big pool on your behalf, and pass on the benefits to you. He will obviously charge some fee for himself. So mutual funds are like a collective investment vehicle. So it is the best way. Mutual funds give you a lot of flexibility. So today you can start investing in mutual funds with very, very small amounts also. Okay, so there is something called as a SIP, which is called as a systematic investment plan. Just like you do I don't know, any of you have heard of or know what is a recurring account in a bank, right? Every month you go and deposit something. That is what is there in the bank, recurring account. Just like that, you can do it in mutual funds, where systematic investment plan, every month you can go and deposit small amounts as low as 500 rupees, right? You can start saving right now. As low as 500 rupees per month, you can start with good mutual funds. Start systematic investment plan, start this kind of recurring plan, and start saving money, right? It will also expose you, and you will expose you to what mutual funds are. You will understand things better. There are a few sites. For example, one of the best sites for mutual funds is a site called as valueresearchonline.com. I'm nowhere connected with any of these sites in any way. I'm just telling it to you for your benefit. There you will see a lot of tutorials on mutual funds, etc., also. So I would definitely suggest that if you are not going to go into finance, etc., definitely understand what mutual funds are. Definitely understand what stock market is. You don't have to research and do things yourself later on, but you will be required to invest your money because you are going to run out of options. Okay, so these are very good avenues where you can earn better returns than bank FD, etc., over a longer period of time. So it is very important that irrespective of your line of study, you at least understand what these things are, and you at least understand how to avoid blunders. And basically आपको कोई चूना नहीं लगाएगा. You have to understand that. You have to even if you do that, you will do fairly well in the market, right? So any questions? I think I've exceeded my time, ma'am.
There's one question by Rahil. So he's asking, what is your investment philosophy?
Okay, my investment philosophy is very simple. Try to do things that you understand. Okay, so I am what is known as a fundamental analyst and investor. So I look at fundamentals. There is another category called as technical analysts who will look at price patterns and charts and try to put money on the basis of that. Both things work, but I don't think I'm very good at technical analysis and price patterns. So I look into fundamentals. So my investment philosophy is to invest in companies where I can understand the business. Hopefully, I'm very comfortable with the management, and most importantly, I will buy at my price only. So the price is in my favor. So that is, I'm a valuations driven investor. Beyond a certain point, I don't understand businesses. Technically, मुझे नहीं समझ में आता, but I understand valuations to some extent at least. So I'm more of a valuations driven investor.
So there's a question by Siddharth Ved. What are your views on this year's budget and its impact on the markets? He also puts it in a bracket that Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala has given it a 10 on 10.
Yeah, I mean, somebody as senior as him gives it a 10 and 10. I mean, I have got nothing else to say on it. I just think that they did what was necessary. We have got some big bang announcements. We have got some sensible things being said. Obviously, please remember that this is a budget. No, अपन अपने महीने का बजट भी बनाते हैं and end of the month the budget and the actuals are different. So execution is very important. Till now the big bang announcements, at least the start has happened, you know, that follow up of those announcements with execution. Let us hope it continues, right? So if these continue, the execution of whatever has been announced in the budget continues, I think as an economy it's going to be great for us.
So there's another question by Tanisha Kauli. Does it make sense to use something known as eToro? It basically shows you the trading patterns of the people, and you can copy trades of more experienced traders in a quick and easy way using the platform.
Honestly speaking, I have never used it, so I don't know exactly what it does. But see, this is something known as, you know, quote telling, or, you know, copying other people's trade, etc. The problem with which happens with this is twofold. Number one, you can maybe come to know and copy someone else's trade or someone else's buy sell decision, but you can't copy their conviction, right? So if I buy a stock at, let's say, 100, okay, and through this eToro or whatever, you come to know that I have bought the stock at 100. Now the stock falls to 80. I have conviction in it. I will, you know, chill out and keep on holding. Stock falls to 70. I'm very okay with it. I am not, maybe even not even added more. I'm just holding. The problem is because you don't know why I have bought it. You will not have the conviction and you will panic and sell out, right? So you can copy somebody's trades, but how can you copy the thought process and conviction? So it is always better to have your own.
Okay. There's a question by Aishwarya Rai. Aishwarya Yadav, sorry. Do stock market bubbles affect long-term investment?
Do stock market bubbles
affect long-term investment?
To a certain extent, they do, because stock market bubbles, see, the problem which happens is stock market bubbles scare you out of long-term investments, right? Because these bubbles, they end very badly. So, for example, so there are a lot of stocks where if you are invested in, let's say, 2007, which was the peak of our bull market, okay? In 2008-9, the index itself fell 50% and more, and a lot of stocks were down 80%. So if you had invested at the peak before the fall and held till today, your returns in a lot of cases are much more superior than even FD returns. Okay. The problem is the bubble and what comes after scares you out of long-term investment. So that is the problem. If you have belief in the company and you stay invested, it's not going to be a problem.
Okay, so Shruti Bhatt says that the best policy is to buy during bad times, sell during good times. True or false? One certainly could have made a small fortune if they had invested during the month of March 2020 and sold this year.
Shruti, what is a bad time and what is a good time? Tell me that first. Bad when prices are low. Okay. So in March, were the prices low? March 2020? Yeah, the prices were low, right, in March 2020. And if, as you said, if one would have bought in March 2020 and sold this year, you could have made a lot of money, right? It is so obvious, but the problem is it is obvious in hindsight. Please remember that when bad times come, what happens is you think that it is going to become even worse. Okay, so what you're saying is theoretically correct. Okay, but practically very, very difficult to execute. So you said that, you know, those were bad times. How do you know that today, for example, the Sensex is at wherever it is, yes, 50,000 or whatever. How do you know that today is not the bottom of the Sensex from a 2-year perspective? So यहाँ से अगले 2 साल, how do you know that it is not a bottom, or how do you know that it is not a top? See, the point is bad time and good time, what you're saying, is visible and understandable only in hindsight. When those times are actually there, you will be scared, completely going nuts because everything around you is negative. So yes, one should certainly invest in bad times. There is no question about it. But the conviction to do it, it's not easy, because during those bad times, you will be waiting for further, even more bad times, right? During good times, you will be waiting for even more good times. कि ऊपर जा रहा है और ऊपर जाएगा तो sell करेंगे. So that is where your mentality comes into play to become a better investor.
So, and now coming to Om's question, could you talk a little more about how stock prices increase or decrease?
It is all demand supply driven. So if a lot of people want to buy a stock, they are willing to pay a bit higher price for that, then that is how the price goes up. If everybody wants to sell the stock, the price will crash. Simply demand supply driven.
Related to this, dwelling further on this, there's Omkar who's asking, other than stock prices, what are the indicators of a healthy economy? The media seems to focus on the stock market all the time.
Yeah. See, there is nothing wrong in what the media is doing. The media is there for a reason, right? See, very simply put, yesterday, what was the GDP of our country? And today, how much has the GDP of our country increased? Can this be calculated and can this become news? No. But yesterday, Sensex kya tha and aaj Sensex kya hua? It is something which is changing all the time, reportable. You can have a lot of commentary on it. So the media obviously will tend to concentrate on it, right? They have their job to do. They have their hours to fill. They can't talk about the economy all the time. Stock market is one of the indicators of the economy. And in a lot of cases, it is what is known as an early indicator, right? So the stock market typically tells you what is going to happen in the economy 6 months from now. And a lot of times, the stock market moves happen before the actual economy moves happen. A lot of times, I'm not saying always, but it's a good indicator for sure. Could you recommend some good long-term stocks to invest in? No.
Okay, we have Shrishti Das. She's asking, some companies offer their employees shares as an incentive. So are those good investments first, and can those be traded?
So what Shrishti, what you're saying are known as ESOPs, employee stock option plans under their allotted shares. Every company will have their own policy as to how the ESOPs are going to be. They have a certain, you can call it as a lock-in period. Once that lock-in period is over and the employees actually get the shares, then they can freely sell the shares in the market, trade in them, absolutely no problem.
We have two questions from Siddharth Ved. One is, what are your views on the scope of cryptocurrency in India?
Okay.
And the second one he's talking about is there something like the Lehman Brothers crisis possible in India? If yes, how can we prevent it?
Okay, so first on cryptocurrency, I don't have much of idea about cryptocurrency, but honestly speaking, until and unless legally it is permitted, cryptocurrency has got no place in India. Okay, so unless and until legally permitted. So there are certain, you will find certain private markets, so as to say, जहाँ India में भी cryptocurrency का trading and all होता है. As far as possible, please avoid this, because you don't know what will be the taxation implications of this, legal implications of this. So cryptocurrency, there's no point in talking unless and until it is legally recognized in India.
And the second question, is there something like a Lehman Brothers crisis possible in India? If yes, how can we prevent it?
I mean, honestly speaking, very much it is possible. We have to discuss probabilities here. There is nothing which is impossible. In the stock market, once you say कि हो ही नहीं सकता, वो हो ही जाता है. So probabilistic thinking helps. So the probability of that happening is very, very less. Primarily for two reasons. Number one, we have got very good regulators in place. Okay? RBI as a central bank regulator, as well as SEBI. Lehman kind of a crisis did not happen in India because these regulators did not allow a lot of exotic derivative instruments in India at all. Right? So we have got good regulators in place. We have got good systems in place. I don't think there is that, the probability of that happening is material. I don't think that kind of a moment can happen. We have got good regulators in place. That is one of the major things.
Okay. There's another question by Tanewalia. Do you see something like GME happening in India?
The GME, that thing that went up, the US thing, right?
Yes.
Again, very difficult for that to happen because unlike the US markets, we have something called as circuit filters in place for majority of the stocks. So the stocks will not go up 100% in a single day. Circuit filters are not there for all stocks, but for a majority of stocks, I'm saying.
Now we have Harsh Rastogi asking, because of high beta, cryptocurrency is usually associated with day trading. But could an investor also buy and hold crypto as a long-term investment?
Honestly, unless and until it gets legal recognition in India, I will not recommend doing anything in crypto, because there are a lot of unknowns here, right? So from a taxation perspective, what will you show it as, right? From a legal perspective, what will you show it as? How will you buy it? You have somebody in the US, you can ask them, etc. But unless and until it gets legal recognition in our country, don't dabble into these things. I know they appear very zazzy and अरे ये इतने का इतने में हो गया, and it's something that you can discuss with your friend. मैंने crypto लिया ये वो, but avoid as far as possible. Avoid.
Okay. Siddharth Narayanan is asking, how much of company research is recommended for day trading?
Day trading is day trading is something where your decisions are going to be based on the price. A lot of times you don't even need to know the name of the company. So company research दूर की बात है. So day trading is a reactionary kind of a trading where you take decisions based on price and price action alone.
Okay. Om Rawat is asking, what source is the most reliable to get market news? Some recommended TV channels, newspapers, mobile apps, etc.
There is no source which is most reliable. I don't watch, so at my home, I don't even have cable TV. I just have a big movie collection, and that's all I watch. I don't watch any news channels. 6 years ago, I stopped subscribing to newspaper. All my information, general information comes mostly from Twitter only. But as far as, so there are a lot of good magazines out there which you can, there are very famous sites such as Money Control, where you can get a lot of information. Obviously, please use the information as an input. Okay, don't directly take blindly decisions based on that. Then you have got a lot of private forums. You have got a very good forum. It's run by a few friends of mine called as Value Picker, where you will find a lot of good information on specific stocks. Right? They also discuss a lot about investment philosophy and all these things. And you have got a variety of blogs also, right, from which you can get information.
Okay. Shatakshi Kaushik is asking, do apps like Grow help to start trading?
So honestly speaking, you can start trading irrespective of apps like Grow. Okay, you can trade through any broker. Yeah, apps like Grow just make things simpler for you. And as you know, you are all young people, you are all very tech savvy, so these things will appeal to you more. But what you can do on Grow, and you can do on virtually any other platform. It's just the UI will be different, but it's just a broker. I think Grow is a broker. Yeah, they're just brokers. Yeah.
Yashvi Shah asks, can you please recommend any good online courses to learn more about capital markets?
There are a lot of online courses. You can look at Safal Niveshak's website. There are a lot of, he offers a lot of courses. So a lot of people, you just Google for it. But just one thing, whichever course that you do, please ensure that you are doing a course offered by an Indian guy, because our markets are different. So you do something offered by US guy, and you will find that boss wo bol raha hai, wo in our markets it's not, because our markets are different, our laws are different. So it's very important that you do anything courses offered by an Indian person. You can relate to it more, and it will be more valuable.
Okay, Siddharth Ved has another question. The onset of zero brokerage houses has crashed the traditional ones. Do you think things will work if they continue the same way?
Things will work, yeah. Things will not stop. The traditional ones have now started offering discount broking. Kotak started it. ICICI Direct started it. So it's not that they can't do it, right? So it's just that somebody like a Zero has been a pioneer in it, and they have perfected the model. These guys will catch up. It will be in that beneficial for investors, because the brokerage rates will come down.
Okay, and is Zerodha a good place to set up a demat account? Continuing with that,
I don't want to comment on it. I have heard that it's not a bad place at all. The reason I am not commenting on it because I myself don't have an account there, right? So I don't have a personal experience, but I know a lot of good people who have an account there and they are very happy.
Okay, another thing, another question that Siddharth Ved has asked. Speaking of RBI being a regulator, the PAI filed against them by Subramaniam Swamy has raised serious credibility issues and questions. Do you think there will be some kind of transparency? And if not, is it okay to continue the same way?
So let me understand this right, Siddharth. You are questioning the credibility of the RBI because of the PIL filed by somebody. Is it what you're saying?
Siddharth, you could mention, give a reply to Sir's question.
I don't think you can question the credibility of the RBI in any way. You can, the oil, I think you mean PIL. Yeah. I understand that. Okay, but obviously, somebody has an opinion and files a PIL. You can question the efficiency of a RBI governor, but RBI as an institution, you can question the actions taken by a RBI governor. People will have different kinds of opinions on it, but was credibility of the RBI, I never doubted. That's my opinion.
Okay. Now we have Harsh Rastogi who's asking, is there a way to get exposure to the stock markets under an expert's mentorship rather than paper trading or trading on our own?
A variety of good investors offer internship. So some of your seniors had been offered internship by some good people. You can talk with your seniors. Some of those people come in your literacy course as speakers also. So good investors do offer it. I'll call it as internship, not as a mentorship. So so you can do it. I would definitely recommend if you get an opportunity to work with a good investor for even 6 months, I will definitely recommend it.
So I think we are done addressing all the questions.
Oh man, that's 1.5 hours. Okay.
Yes. So it was really a lively session with questions varying right from how do prices increase or decrease to allotment to how do I open a DMAT account. Probably you might want to add in that they require certain documents from their side as well, like a PAN card and so on. Yeah. So you all guys can begin rolling with it, but under guidance, I presume. Okay. We have one more question. Okay. Isn't internship doing work? I have no idea about finance, but I'd love to learn more. But I'm worried I won't be able to contribute anything in such internships.
See, Tanisha, internships are not jobs. Okay? Internship is meant for you to learn. See, there has to be value addition for both, right? For you who is doing the internship and for the person who is offering the internship. The person offering the internship will be, kind of very chilled out with you. That in the beginning, he won't expect that you add value. Right? You are here to learn, and that's what the concentration will be on. So you will learn things, and after that, some value will be expected from you, which is why it's called as an internship, right? It's not a full-fledged job. So in the beginning, honestly speaking, nobody will expect any contribution from you. The only thing which will be expected is that you are enthused and that you are learning and you are applying. Right? If you just sit, I have no idea about finance, meko kuch nahi aata hai, and you just sit like that, that won't help. Nobody starts out with having a fair idea about finance. All of us have learned, right? So we weren't born knowing what is a balance sheet, right? So we have to learn. There's no rocket science in it. Pretty easy. There's you just have to start, no problem.
So if there are further questions, please put in so that we leave another 2-3 minutes to address. Otherwise, we could proceed with closing the session.
You can just put in my email ID also, ma'am, if you want. Whatever.
That is already shared with the students on Moodle.
No problem.
Yes, if you have any further questions with respect to setting up a DMAT account and further queries, please contact Neeraj Marathe, sir.
So just a couple of disclosures. I am not a broker in any way. Okay, neither am I affiliated with any broker, but you can open a DMAT account with virtually anybody. It's a very fairly straightforward process. That is one. Don't email me asking for tips in any in any way. I don't give tips.
So without any asking for tips, if you have any further queries with respect to any stock market issues, any basics that you feel you want to be addressed, please contact sir. The email address is already shared in the first session that we had with him. And I believe sir would be very, very happy to address these issues. Anything else that you require, please write down all your questions and we could also forward it to sir.
Yeah, whatever.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It was indeed a very lively, interactive session and hope to have many more.
My pleasure always. Thank you people for taking time out on a Saturday morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.